It's okay, Brandon. I thought of that too, so I sent a text message. Okay. So for those who are or who just joined us right now, don't forget to type your name in the chat. And we are looking at 3.8, Chapter 3 Study Guide. Good morning, Jazzy. Hi, Axel. Happy cold Monday morning. And I asked her, hi, Henry. I asked her classmates how they were, the last news they heard, and how they feel about it. So if you want to share, you can type that in the chat. And get ready with your piece of paper. All right. We're going to get started, shall we? So in our study guide, it's pretty much about all the things we discuss about lines, functions. Yes. If you have all your notes on your notebook, the concept maps, those ones will be helpful tomorrow. Not tomorrow, but next meeting. Next meeting when we have your test. Okay, so number 1, find the domain and range of the function represented by the graph. So when we say domain, we're actually looking for the x numbers, right? So the domain is x. So just list them down. So what are they? Start from left to right so you don't skip anything. The first x here where the first dot can be found is 0, right? And then the next dot can be found at x equals 1, next at 2, next at 3. And then for the range, the y is equal to, so just find where the dots are at. So first dot, again, always do it from left to right so you don't get confused. First dot is at y equal to 0. Next dot, the y here is where? At -1, right? Next dot showing what y number? -2. Am I sharing my screen? Can you let me know? You should see some writing. I'm writing down number. Okay, thank you. And then the last y number is -3. So that's how you find the domain and range. So if you don't want to enter the answers right now and you just want to do your notes so you can do it individually later on, then just write your notes down, and the correct answer here must be domain 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, see? Right? This one? All right. So they're just written in, a different order, but it's the same thing. -3, -2, -1, 0 backwards, right? Okay. Are there any questions on that? Or was that clear? Just so, we don't, why are we supposed to write this? Well, that might help you in your test tomorrow. I mean, next meeting, Louise. But if you got everything in your head, sure. I mean, yep, no pressure. Hi, Christian. Okay, next, number 2. All right, so we're going to do the same thing for number 2. I'm not going to spend so much time on something that's very similar to what have been discussed, okay? So the domain here will be from -2 and then -1, 0, 1, and 2. So I'm just following where the dots are, and I'm looking at their x value. That's how you find the domain. Yeah? Okay, so far this is like giving you the domain, yeah? And then for the range, you just look at the y value. So the y value for this point is +2. The y value for these 2 points is 0. And the y value for this point is -2. So where are they? Right here. So the correct answer to number 2 is C, right? Okay, this will be your third chapter test from me, right? Our study guide. So I'm pretty sure you're already familiar with, how I use the study guide to prepare you for the test. So it will be the same question, same prompt, but definitely the dots will be somewhere else, right? So that's how I make your test. So make sure you understand how we're doing it in the study guide. Okay, I'm not going to spend so much time in number 2 because it's similar to 1. Here we go. Number 3. Number 3. Find the domain and range of the function represented by the graph. All right, so let's find the x first. So go to the last point of your graph and find the x number there. Where is it at? It's at -4. Starts at -4, right? And then where did your graph end for the x value? It ended at 2. So that means your x is between -4 and 2. So now we have to figure out whether it's going to be a solid with an equal sign, or if it's an open circle, so we don't, put the bar underneath the equal symbol. Well, let's see. This is a solid dot, and that's also a solid dot. So that means we have to put the bar underneath our equal sign. There you go. So that's a domain. So let me repeat one more time. For the domain, you look at your y values, okay? I mean your x values. Now for the range, you gotta look at the y, yeah? Ooh, okay. So for the y value, you have to look at the bottommost part of the graph, which is this one, right? That's the lowest point, okay? And the highest point is where? The highest point is at 4, right? So that means the lowest is -4, the highest is +4. Good morning, Valerie. And then we put less than or equal to, less than or equal to. So the correct answer to this one is C. Okay. If you guys just joined us right now, we're looking at the study guide in Schoology. You could just watch your screen right now and write this down so you don't waste time. And just write down the answers on Schoology later on. Okay. So that's how you find the domain and range from a graph. All right. I'm going to clear the ink so we can finish as much as we can. Number 4, the amount of calories you consume after eating X pieces of candy. So the clue here is X pieces of candy. You're counting the number of candies, and it's represented by the function y is equal to 150x. Find the domain of the function and determine whether it is discrete or continuous. You want to see? Say hi. Oh my God, honey. Oh, you're too heavy for mommy now. Okay, so that means when you're counting, you know, the number of candies, definitely you start from 1, right? 2, 3, and it's discrete because you can count them, right? You can count them one by one. Yeah? Okay, so that means the answer here will be, I'll say bye-bye now because you got to go back to your Zoom. Okay. All right, so the correct answer here will be letter B. Okay, so how might this problem change? So here they're asking you to describe the domain, which is the number of candies, right? Okay, but if they're asking you, for the range is different. So according to the function, for every piece of candy, you're consuming 150 calories. Right? So the range is different. It won't be 1, 2, 3, but when you multiply 1 by 150, 2 by 150, 3 by 150, that's going to be different. Yeah? So the range will be 150 times 1 is 150. 150 times 2 will be 300. 150 times 3 will be 450, and so on. So the range may be different. Okay? All right. Any questions about domain and range? So numbers 1 through 4 in your chapter test will be about domain and range. Questions in the chat? No questions? Okay, so now let's switch gears. We're going to look at some functions now. Number 5. Find the value of x so that the function has the given value. So you have n of x is equal to 2x plus 17. The fastest way to do this is by, plugging it in, right? Trial and error, plug it in. Um, so n of x is 17. So that means you're looking for the number such that when you replace x with that number, okay? Oh, why did I put plus 17? Oh, how do I erase? Okay, so you're looking for that x number such that when you plug it in, the total answer must be 17, right? So if you look at these choices, I think you can get the answer right away. So 2 multiplied by something, and then you add 17, or you add 7, I'm sorry, and then you add 7, the answer will be 17. Have you found the answer already? I think this one you can easily find the letter of the correct answer. Anybody? What number do you multiply to x? So x times 2 is something plus 7. Your answer will become 17. Has anybody found that? Did you guys try plugging in a number or a letter? Try 5. Like 2. Yeah, very good, Enrique. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 7 is 17. So you're getting this one, right? The long way to do it is you make the function equal to 17 and then get the x by itself. So 2x equals 10, so x is equal to 5. So this is trial and error, right? If it's just a matter of plugging in, you could just try the numbers one by one, and this is by solving. Okay? Next, same thing. Number 6, find the value of x so that the function has the given value. So let's do that. You can again just plug them in one by one to get the answer. Okay, so let me show over here how to solve it. 4 fifths x minus 9, and then we want the answer. This is the answer right here. We want the answer to be 3. Okay, all right, so let's do that. You move this over, you add 9, right? So you get 12, and then you have 4 fifths x. Okay, so now what do we do with the 4 fifths? We multiply by the reciprocal. You flip it. 5 over 4. So that means 5 divided by 5 is 1. 4 divided by 4 is 1. So this one, everything here becomes just 1. Now what about here? So x is equal to 12 times 5, that is 60 divided by 4, right? So what is 60 divided by 4? That will give you 15. Excuse me. So the correct answer here must be, okay. All right. So based on past experience, you're not supposed to memorize the letter of the correct answers because in the test itself, the numbers, the 4 fifths would be different, the 9 would be different, all the choices will be different. So make sure that you understand how to do it. Okay, I'm gonna clear the ink. Um, okay, I think I'm gonna skip number 7 because I already showed you 2 examples of that, so we can cover the rest of the study guide. Okay, number 8, graph the linear function. Graph the linear function. So when you see f of x is equal to -2, it's just a fancy way of writing y equals -2. So these are the same. Okay? So if it's y equals -2, what kind of line should we choose? Is it a horizontal or a vertical line? And what's the shortcut? How do we know for sure? If it's y equal to, that means you're crossing the y-axis. Crossing the y-axis. at -2. So that means it's going to hit this one. It's going to hit the y-axis. But is this hitting your y-axis at -2? Okay, this is your x, that's your y. So this is 1, 2. So that's not the correct answer because it crosses your y at 2. What about here? 1, 2. Okay, that looks like the correct answer. Because it intersects your y-axis at -2. So that means this is a horizontal line. Horizontal line. Okay, so this one is letter B. Okay, if you have your concept map with you, I made you write it down in your notebook. You have something like this. This one, the shortcut, remember? I said if the equation is y equal to something, like what we have right now, y equals -2, then the line is horizontal. Horizontal. So it goes flat. Yeah? And if they ask you about the slope of that one, the slope is 0. Okay, so all of those are written in your concept map. Just make sure when you study this practice test, you look at your concept maps as well. Number 9. Number 9. So f of x is x plus 2. So it just means you have a function with the variable x. So it means the same thing as y is equal to x plus 2. So how do you start graphing this one? First, start out with the y-intercept. Yeah? So your y-intercept is 0, 2. Okay, so where is that? I think all the graphs are crossing at -2 or +2. No, except this is negative. So letter C. No, where's the pen? Okay, so letter C is wrong because this is -2. Yeah? So that's wrong. What else is crossing at -2? This one is also crossing at -2. So letter A is also wrong. Okay, so now we're left with B and D. Okay, and even if you don't know what the next step is, you should be able to get the right answer already. So between B and D, okay, what should be the correct answer? Make a guess. Well, not like just guess, but the slope here is what? The slope here is 1, right? So it's positive. And what did I say last time? If a line has positive slope, it must be going upward from left to right. Yeah? So then that means you can pick letter B, right? Okay. So the correct answer must be letter D, because you're crossing the y-axis at 2 and the slope is positive, so it's going upward. Okay? So learn how to use your hacks. Even if you don't know all the steps, if you understand the concepts, it should, they should help you find the right answer. Okay, next, 10. Okay, so for number 10, where should your graph cross the y-axis? If you're not busy writing, can you type in the chat? Number 10, where should the graph cross the y-axis? What is the y-intercept here? If you're not busy writing, can you type in the chat? So where does the graph cross the y-axis? Anybody? Type in the chat. What's the y-intercept? What's the b? G of x means it's just y equal to -1/2 x plus 2. Very good, Brandon. So it's +2, right? So that means B is already wrong. I can't see what letter D is, but what is it? Letter D is also wrong. So B and D are both wrong. So we're choosing between A or C. Okay, it's just either A or C because B is wrong already. Okay, so now which one are you going to pick, A or C? A, according to Enrique. Enrique, look here. If this is negative, right? If that's negative, then your graph has to be going downward. Okay? So the graph has to be going downward. So don't pick A because your graph is going up. Yes, very good, Juliet. So this is going up, this is going down. Okay? So the correct answer has to be letter C. That's awesome. I thought you guys left me already. Okay. All right. Because the chat was so quiet. Are you busy writing? Okay. All right. Let's go. 11. Ooh, we saw something like this earlier. Describe the slope of the line, then find the slope. Okay, I mentioned this earlier when we were doing a horizontal line. Horizontal line, and then I wrote this. Yeah? So this is a horizontal line. So what is the slope of a horizontal line? Okay. 0. Very good. So the correct answer is letter D. Okay? So remember, they only have a number for the slope when they're going up. So that's positive 4, so that's going up. Positive 1 going up. Negative 1, that's going down from left to right. If it's 0, then it means it's horizontal. Okay, ooh, look at number 12. Look at number 12. So if number 11 has a 0 slope according to Juliet, what about number 12? That's a vertical line. Vertical line because it goes straight up and down. So I don't know if you see this on your concept map, but what does this mean? What's the slope of a vertical line? Anybody? What's the slope of a vertical line? You said it can be negative because it has to be a line going down. It can be positive either because it has to be a line going up. So you're left with A or B. But we said earlier a 0 is for horizontal, right? So that means you got no choice. It's undefined. That's what this letter U is for. Undefined. There you go. This is vertical. If they ask you what the equation is, you just get the x value where it crosses the x-axis. That's positive 1. So the equation is x is equal to 1. There you go. Okay. All right. Describe the slope of the line. Ooh, that's a good one. Describe the slope of the line. Which ones are obvious answers? Since your graph is going down from left to right, do process of elimination. So you only have to choose between two things. Since it's going down, it cannot be positive. That's gone. Okay, so now you have to do your rise over run. Okay, or drop over run. All right, so what should be the answer? Very good, Juliet. It's negative. Oh, now what's the value? You count down and over. Start from the first point on the left. Down, count down and over. So what will be the answer? Anybody who has tried? C, very good, Jazzy. Yep, it's down 1 And then a 1, 2, 3, 4. Very good. So it's negative 1 over 4. Awesome. All right. Good job, Jazzy. Okay, next. 14. Oh, remember this when we graphed it? Compare the graph or graph the function and compare the graph to the graph of f of x is equal to absolute value of x. Describe the domain and range. Okay. All right. I think this was the part that we skipped last time. So before I continue with this, I have to make you copy a concept map first, and then we'll go back. Okay, so if you remember last time I asked you if you wanted us to just focus on the graph, and that's what we did. Okay. And this will be very quick. I have 28 ungraded assignments. Dang, Arciaga, you're falling behind. Okay, but your period, I'm done grading that. I graded period 4 and period 6 last night. So yours should be good. I gotta do 135 later on. I was so sleepy I couldn't stay anymore to finish 135. Okay, so I'm gonna make you copy something on your notebook. I'm opening it. Give me 1 second. So this was the only part we skipped last time. But we already learned how to graph last meeting, so I just need you to copy this one. All right. So go ahead and let's copy this on our notebook. So what does this slide mean? Okay, copy this down first in your notebook. So last time, if you remember, we talked about how to find the vertex, right? Where the vertex is H, right? The opposite of H, and then K, right? So we talked about that last time. However, um, we didn't have time to copy this down, so I'm going to go over this real quick before we go back to the study guide. Now, sometimes a number is added after the bar, okay, after the absolute value bar. So if a number is added, we say it's a vertical translation, meaning the graph is going up. Remember when you were graphing last time? The graph was moving either upward or downward or sideways from the center. So vertical translation, K up. Why K up? Because it's positive. Okay? If it's negative, then you say K down. That's the only difference. Mm-hmm. But if it's inside the bar, excuse me, it's going to be horizontal translation. I can hear my stomach growling. Okay, so horizontal translation. But if if the number being added or subtracted is inside the absolute value bar, just like what we did last time, we get the opposite of the number, right? So this means if the number is 2, we go 2, but not to the right. We go to the left, okay? Because we do the opposite. So h to the left, right? If it's minus h, then we go h to the right, okay? I'll show you later how to do that in the study guide. And then negative, if you multiply a negative, I don't remember if we saw this in the graph last time, but this is reflection. Reflection across y-axis. And this one will be reflection across x-axis. Okay. All right. Okay. And then last one, if A If you multiply the function by a value greater than 1, it's a vertical stretch, meaning you remember when the graph became narrower or wider. I don't know if you saw that on the graph, but if the a value is a fraction, so if a is smaller than 1, okay, but it has to be bigger than 0. Okay. So if a is smaller than 1, then it's a vertical compression. Compression is just a fancy name for shrink, called vertical shrink. So that's when your graph becomes narrower, you stretch it, becomes wider. And then here, if b is greater than 1, horizontal compression. So make sure you have this list when you take the test. I'll show you how to use it. And then if b is between 0 and 1, horizontal stretch. Okay, so copy that down, and then I'll show you how to use it in the study guide. So those are just, the fancy terms describing what we did when we graphed the worksheet last Friday. We were finding the vertex, right? And then we were making sure that the graph was shaped like a letter V. And sometimes the graph is not at the center or origin because we're following where the vertex is at. So the vertex could move up and down or sideways. The graph could also be narrower or wider. And lastly, the graph could be opening upward or downward. Okay, so let's see how we can use that in the study guide. Going back here, compare the graph of the compare the graph to the graph of g of x, or f of x is equal to absolute value of x. Describe the domain and range. Describe the domain and range. Okay, so we can describe the domain and range once we have identified the correct graph, right? Okay, so first, if you remember, how do you find the vertex from here? The vertex is you get the opposite of h and then you copy the k, right? So the vertex will be the opposite of this number is 2, and then there is no number outside, so 2 comma 0. 2 comma 0. So once you know the vertex, you can find the correct graph. Where is the correct graph over here? The numbers here are going by 2. See? 2, 4, 6, 8. So your vertex here is 2. Okay, so this is the correct graph, letter B. Is there anything else that looked like letter B? I didn't see letter D. Let me go down. Nope, there's nothing else that looked like letter B, right? Okay, so once you have found the correct graph, this is where you can figure out whether the description or the comparison is correct or not. So since your vertex is positive 2, then it means that you went 2 to the right. Yeah, that's what basically it means here. It just added the word translation. Okay, and then the domain is always all real numbers. So if you look at the options, they always put domain is all real numbers. So the domain doesn't change. Now for the range, you just look at the y value here. The y value is 0, so that means the range is y. Okay. So the range is y is greater than or equal to 0. My 4-year-old is so vain. If you spill anything on her clothes, even just a little bit, she wants to change. Okay. Okay, Mimi. Your mommy is working. Okay. See you later. All right. So the domain is all real numbers, right? And then to find the range, you just look at the y value, which is 0. Yeah? Since your graph here is going upward, so they're facing upward, so we put y is greater than or equal to 0. Okay, so what's the important thing here? You have to know how to find the vertex. And that's what we tried to nail last Friday, right? Finding the vertex. Brandon, I think you sent me a message and I did reply to you via Remind. I don't know if you saw it. You said there was absolute value of x minus 2 minus 2, and you said you had a hard time with the negative. The vertex here will be you get the opposite of that one, which is 2, right? And then you just copy this exactly as it is. So 2, negative 2. I don't know if you get my reply, but yeah, check it out. Sorry, I wasn't able to reply over the weekend. I wasn't feeling well. I just did not look at my laptop and everything. Okay, here we go. 14. Okay, now let's go to 15. Okay, so same thing. Now we're going to look at the function g of x is equal to absolute value of x minus 2. And see how they're tricking you over here. They're giving you straight lines. Oh, somebody in the chat, give me 1 second. Wait, what was the answer for 14? Oh, wait. Can somebody type the letter for 14? Was I looking at B? I'm sorry, I forgot. Can somebody type it in the chat? It was the one that's going up with D or B? You sure? Wait, how do I go up? Where's mine? Are the choices randomized? Oh, I'm so sorry. Okay, my bad. I forgot. This one. This is the right answer, so you gotta find it. Whatever this one is. Yeah? Because remember, the vertex is 2, 0. So whatever that is, find it. Okay. All right, so going back to 15. So the vertex now here is, there's no number inside, so there's nothing we're going to get the opposite of, right? So the vertex must be 0, and then we copy this exactly. 0, negative 2. 0, negative 2. And remember, the graph is always a V-shaped graph. So you see how they're tricking you? Definitely, if you see a line graph, that's wrong. Don't come here. You're changing. You're naked. Go there. Oh my gosh. Okay. So letter A is wrong. Letter B is wrong, right? Because they're lines. So now let's find letter C. Is letter C the right one? How do I scroll down here? Where's the bar? Okay. All right. So letter C and letter D are similar, but it's either positive 2 or negative 2. Okay, so if you look at the vertex is negative 2. So the correct answer is this one, whatever letter that is on your graph. Yeah, very good, Brandon. Negative 2. So find that graph that has negative 2 like this. Okay? All right. And that means it went 2 down because it's negative. The domain is always the same, right? And the range always uses the y number. So that's the range. So y greater than or equal to negative 2. Okay. So as long as you understood how we got the vertex last time, this part should be easy. Next, graph the function. Compare the graph to the graph of f of x and describe the domain and range. Okay, this one is a little tricky. So g of x is equal to negative 1/4 times the absolute value of x. Okay. All right, let's see. If it has a negative sign, remember when I made you copy the graphic organizer? Okay, so in the graphic organizer, when there's a negative, it flips downward, right? The graph flips downward. So definitely, we're looking for a graph here that's opening downward already. So what does that mean? This one is wrong because it's not flipped downward. This one is wrong because it's not flipped downward either. Let me look at the other choices. Okay, there you go. So these ones are the two graphs. I'm writing on my iPad. Sorry, that's wrong. Okay, so um, these ones are the two graphs that are opening downward or flipped downward. So we have to choose between letter C or D. C or D. Okay? All right. So how do you know whether the only difference here is whether it's a vertical stretch or a vertical shrink or compression? So how do you know? Now let me repeat this one. The negative is a reflection. Okay? And then this one, that's a fraction. 1/4, that's a fraction. So definitely this is less than 1. Less than 1. So go ahead and look at the concept map that I made you copy just earlier. So, and I think the ink is still there. Let me see. Oops. So yeah. So see this one? If the number is less than 1, it's a vertical compression or shrink. Vertical compression or shrink. So if we go back here, we have to choose the one that says vertical shrink. There you go. So that means we're going to choose letter D. Letter D. So try to find that among your choices. So if it's a fraction, it makes the graph wider. Wider. Okay. All right. So if it's a fraction, it makes it wider or the graph lower, right? Okay. So find that among the choices. I'm going to clear the ink. Next one. Okay, we have 5 minutes. You could do this. Graph the function, describe the domain and range. Okay, so -3 absolute value of x. So the negative, that means you have a reflection again, right? So it has to flip down, right? Okay, and then the 3, this is greater than 1. It's not a fraction. So that's greater than 1. So that means we're not going to choose shrink. We're going to pick stretch, vertical stretch. So find that. This is flip down, and it says vertical stretch because it's times 3. Okay, so that means it makes the graph narrower, right? Or it makes the graph higher. Okay, higher from compared to the x-axis, right? So the correct answer is this one. Find it among the choices. You have to find the graph that looks like this. Okay, it's flipped downward because it has a negative in front. Okay. I'm going to keep going over here. 17, 18. Okay, which of the following relations are graphs of functions? You have multiple answers here. So if you see a box like this, okay, you see the difference. If it's just one answer, it's a circle. But if it's multiple answers, it's going to be a box. So you have to click more than one. Which of the following relations or graphs are functions? So how do you know which one is a function? Okay, so use the vertical line test for a graph. Okay, or you have to check if the x does not repeat. Okay, that's a very, very first lesson within this chapter. So for example here, if I make a vertical line, the red line only crosses one dot at a time. Okay, so that means this is a function. If I make a vertical line, it touches the graphs at 2 different points, so that's wrong. Okay, now we're going to check whether the x repeats or not. -2, -1, 0, 1, 2. So no x is repeating. That's a function. What about this? If you make the vertical line, it again just touches the circle or the dot at one point. So that's a function. Okay. Um, this one, -6, that's the input or the x. -1, 4, 8. It's not repeating, so that's a function. So we have A, C, D, E. Oh, I forgot again. Find those, whatever letters those are on your Schoology. I haven't seen letter F. Let me see what letter F is. Let me clear the ink. What is letter F? Letter F. Oh, they used the 2 twice. See? 2 went to 0. So 2 was used with 0. And then 2 was also used with 1. So since 2 is repeated, then F is not a function. Okay? So I hope you found those letters that are functions. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, here we go. All right, which equations represent linear functions? Oh, this should be easy. They have to be in the form ax plus by is equal to c, like letter A, right? Something x plus something y equals 2, so that's correct. Oh, this is not because it has an absolute value. Okay, now for this one, if you distribute the 5, it will become 5x. What happens here? 5x minus 20. Okay, so that it will become 5x minus 28. So that works, right? Because the degrees, remember when I talk about the degree of your y variable is 1, the exponent. Okay, the exponents are 1, so that works. Um, letter D, yes, we know that's a horizontal line. Oh, look at this. The x now become a power, so that's wrong. What about here? Ooh, the x has a power, so that's also wrong. Okay, so if there is a power, it has to be 1 only. Like this, y1, y to the first power. Okay, and last but not the least, because I also have an 11:10 class. Okay, so which statements are true about the function? Oh, the y-intercept is -2. How do we do that? If we get the y-intercept, we cover this one, right? So y is -2. That's great. That's correct. The x-intercept is 2. How do you do that? If you want the x-intercept, you cover the y. So you get -x is equal to -2. But if you change the sign in both, that's x is equal to 2. Okay, so the skill that you need to know for number 20 is you have to know how to find intercepts. Okay? So C is already wrong because we already said it's +2, not negative. The graph. Well, the y-intercept is -2 and the x-intercept is 2. So this is right. The graph is right. So definitely this is wrong. The y-intercept is 2, but we already said it's -2, so that's wrong. Is there anything else at the bottom? Not sure. Oh, that's the last one. Okay. All right. Okie dokie. So if there's anything that you need to go back to, I am recording this one, so I'm gonna upload it in your Schoology. Um, probably after my next period, my next class, okay? Because I also have a class at 11:10. All right, you guys. So study this. We don't have school on Wednesday. I will see you on Friday. So you guys have a lot of chance to practice this. What's number 1 and 2? Um, Bye, Juliet. Valerie, number 1 is C. And then number 2, bye. And number two is C. Yeah. And you can also check the video later on. Okay, bye everyone. I have to start the Zoom for my next class now. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.